Hi, I'm Robert Cox. I'm Vice Chairman of the Old Mountain View Neighborhood Association, and I'm here today on Impact, the show that brings you the people who have an impact on your life here in Mountain View. My guest today is our mayor, Jac Siegel. Hi, Jac.
Hi, how are you doing?
Really
Thank you
good.
for having me here today.
It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Jac, because you're one of the guys in City Council that really looks out for people who live here, the residents, and the neighborhoods, and makes this a fine place to live. You know, I mean, Mountain View's had some really exciting things happening in the last year. Our census numbers came in at 74,066, and, you know, I've been going to a few council meetings and watching a few of them here on KMVT, and I found out that, you know, we have like 8 major rental apartment complexes in the works right now and 5 other ownership housing things, as well as the potential of 4 affordable housing units to be built here in the city of Mountain View. And so it seems like the city is going to be growing larger and larger over the next 5 years and maybe going ahead even into 20 years. Jac, how do you manage that kind of growth of the city, and how do you do it in a wise and sensible way?
That's a great question, Robert. And the first thing I'm going to reference you to is this general plan, which was just released in draft form this week. Mm-hmm. And that's going to set the stage for the next 20 years in Mountain View. And the way it looks right now is that we have densified certain areas of town, such as El Camino Real, such as Old Middlefield Way, parts of downtown Mountain View, and of course big changes in North Bayshore or Shoreline Regional District as it is. Big changes as far as densification. And the rest of the city pretty much is going to remain the same. So most neighborhoods are unchanged. We did huge outreach and people said, don't bother my neighborhood. We heard. But most people did want to increase the densities along El Camino Real and make it more modern. Mm-hmm. So what is going on is that Mountain View has a lot of jobs. The last demographics that I heard showed that we have about 50,000 people a day that come into the city of Mountain View. That being said, about 30,000 a day go out of Mountain View to other places to work. Mm-hmm. So as a result, we have increased desires or people wanting needs for housing in Mountain View. And so many developers are now saying, I want to develop in Mountain View. Just a little aside story, President Obama visited us here about a month ago. And I had the opportunity as the mayor of Mountain View to meet and greet him at the tarmac at Moffett Field. Now they do research on you before they come for the president. He has people that do that. As he came down the gangplank or the staircase off of Air Force One after landing at Moffett Field, mm-hmm. He said, "Hello, Mayor Siegel, nice to meet you." And he says, "I know a lot about you and your city." He says, "You are one of the few cities in the nation that real estate values are going up and you're creating jobs." He says, "You have a very well-run city. Keep up the good work." So thereby is the reasons that you see our increased housing market being mm-hmm. built in Mountain View. Wow. Mountain View, on the other hand, is a city that has a lot of disproportionate numbers, such as the rental housing numbers versus the property owned by people, residents. Mm-hmm. We are 58 to 42, which is 58% rental versus only 42% ownership. That's twice what any other city on the peninsula has, which is significant. It's very mm-hmm. significant. So Mountain View is becoming more dense. If you take the general plan, and right now, as you indicated, we're 74,066 people, mm-hmm. and you take the new units that we're zoning for along El Camino and other places in town, we will be somewhere over 100,000 people. Mm-hmm. And the way that's derived is that you take the number of units and the average people per unit, and you know approximately what mm-hmm. the population will be. It turns out in Mountain View, no matter what you do, it winds up about 2.3 people per unit.
Wow. And
the multiplier doesn't change by very much no matter what you do. It may mm-hmm. change just a little bit. The important thing is to do a balance and to keep our city in balance. Keep Mountain View, Mountain View. Most of us live here because we love Mountain View. We don't want to convert it to Manhattan or something else. Mm-hmm. We came here, we like a urban suburban life that we have. We're an urban core, which is downtown mm-hmm. area, with a suburban surrounding and a North Bayshore area. Mm, so that's what's happening. So that's mm-hmm. where our population is headed towards about 100,000, which means about 1 person additional for every 3 people you see now.
Wow, that's pretty amazing there, Jac. You know, I was really impressed at the idea that even just Google, one of our big employers here in Mountain View, was talking about just in the next year or so adding another 6,000 jobs here. And as we look toward trying to manage what that's all going to be about, we've had various people on council debating this issue about whether residential housing should be put together with commercial housing, making it easier for people to walk to work, or that residential housing should be kept separate from commercial housing. Do you have an opinion on that?
Yes, I do. I have a very strong opinion on that. I think one of the reasons that Mountain View has been so successful commercially is because we have the North Bayshore area where there is virtually no housing. And what we have found, and what people have found over the years for the most part, when you mix residential and commercial, you have issues, you have problems, you have toxic issues where many companies, Mountain View is a very diverse company. We're not just electronics and software, by the way. We have over 100 medical device companies. We have over 100 green or solar or companies that produce products in the city. So we have a real broad range of companies here. And what happens is that once you put residential in, you start getting complaints. You get complaints about the traffic, the noise, the lack of services, about the lights are on all night, or so on. Or kids, where are kids going to go to school? In North Bayshore, we have no schools. We have no services, virtually no services there. And we have huge traffic problems. Anyone that commutes into North Bayshore know we only have 2 ways in and out of North Bayshore. And that has been one of the top priorities to solve, is how do we solve this problem? We have a few ideas that we're working on. In fact, we're going to have a transportation summit coming up very soon, where we're inviting companies to soliciting companies to come up with ideas, such as PRT, or personal rapid transit. And it's a dream some of us have had for quite a while, and that is to have a small people mover, or whatever it's like, whatever the devices are, that will take people to work anywhere in North Bayshore and also connect to downtown, which is where the light rail is, Caltrain is, and the buses are. And so we think we can help solve a lot of that problem there. So I do not believe in mixing the commercial and the residential, even though from a standpoint of put the jobs where the people are. I heard a new term the other day, Robert, which
What's
you might like, cube to cube.
Cube to cube.
Yeah, and cube to cube. Most people in this city work in a cube. They don't want to go home and live in a cube. And so it was an interesting concept. And in fact, a Google person actually told me that. So I found that quite interesting.
Wow, that's pretty interesting, Jack. You talk a little bit about this idea of personal rapid transit, and public transportation is on the mind of a lot of us as the city becomes more dense. We want to be able to figure out, like, how are we going to move people around? Can you talk a little bit more about what is this PRT, and also maybe a little bit about how high-speed rail may fit into the future Mountain View, and also the plans for the potential of bus rapid transit? Is it a good idea, or is it something that needs work?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll launch right in. First of all, we're having a study session very soon, I think this month, on shuttle service in Mountain View, which has been a dream for many of us for years. And what that would be a shuttle, hopefully, that could run every 15 to 30 minutes, that would go key places like downtown Mountain View, San Antonio, El Camino Hospital, maybe to the movie theaters, maybe to just key places. And it would go, and you could get off and on the shuttle, but you knew when it was going. So we're actually having a study session on that this month. It's been a high priority for the City Council this year. I think it's number 2 or 3 as far as our priorities go. The problem, of course, is funding it, but once we define what we want to do, we'll go looking for money for it. Let me touch on high-speed rail, because that's very important. High-speed rail is one, whether you like it or not, is a needed thing. It's too expensive. I don't know how we'd ever fund it. And also we have very much concerns about what it will do to our city. When high-speed rail came in the first time, they talked about running I guess the speed was 170-mile-an-hour train through downtown Mountain View. That didn't sit too well with us, and actually by law you can't run a train over 79 miles an hour at grade crossing. So we would have to we have 2 big places in Mountain View, which of course is Castro Street and Ranksdorf, where we have at-grade crossings. Those would have to be fixed, whatever we do. So we have very deep concerns about that. We don't want to destroy our town. When these big trains come through very fast, they're loud, they make a lot of noise. If we don't want to split our town. We don't want a big elevated device sticking 40 feet in the air or whatever it is going through our town either. So we have issues. So what the latest thing that the authorities have come up with is electrification of Caltrain. What does that mean? Okay, it means that Caltrain itself would be able to, one, go faster, two, it would be able to start and stop faster, which means you could put more trains on. Currently, we have 4 trains per hour on average that go through the city of Mountain View. So the trestles are down 4 times an hour at Rengstorff and Castro. Now, with electrification, we could have up to 10 trains is what the projection is. That means the trains would be down 2.5 times as much as they currently are. All right. So to have just electrification without having grade crossing separation, as we talk about it, it is a real big issue for us. It's a super problem, and we're making the authorities very much well aware of that. We've been trying to do grade separation at Rengstorff now for years. And we actually started saving money to do it. At the time, the estimated price tag was about $75 million.
Wow.
We were trying to get money to get the federal government to help us. I went back myself on several trips, and I think we were pretty close at one time. And then earmarks went away because it was going to be done by an earmark. They all went away. So the hopes of that were completely crushed by getting any federal help on it. The other one is a crossing. What do we do at Castro Street without ruining downtown Mountain View? And right now, the current plan that was looked at would basically destroy the 100 block of Castro Street.
Oh, that's terrible.
And it's a terrible thing. And also, if there were a train stop, high-speed train stop in downtown Mountain View, it would require 3,000 to 4,000 parking spaces, and it would be a half-mile long for the train station for the starting and stopping of a high-speed train. So while we all need this and believe that it's a rapid transit is needed around the Bay Area, we want to do it in a way that doesn't destroy Mountain View.
Yeah, on this idea of personal rapid transit, do you believe that this is something that's just basically going to shuttle people between the downtown and the North Bay Shore, or to get people in and out of North Bay Shore, or can you see that as being something more substantial throughout the city?
Much more substantial, not only the city, but it can affect the whole area. And the concept that caught my attention so much and that I'm pushing is that right now, if you work at a company that has 300 or 400 people, and you live in Almaden, and you say, I'm looking to car share or share rides with somebody, you might get somebody that lives in Almaden to ride in with you into North Bay Shore at the times you come. If we had something like a personal rapid transit that had, in fact, we actually laid out a 6-mile route that goes through North Bay Shore, through all the companies, by most of the significant companies there. You could then go online, for example, anywhere in North Bay Shore and say, I'm looking for a ride. And now you have 50,000 people to try to look for rides. So what that means, most cars are still coming in with one person per car. You could fill up your car, have a common parking area, get on the personal rapid transit, and be anywhere within North Bay Shore within 10 minutes.
Wow.
And it would also connect to downtown. So that's the kind of the concept we're looking for. So it would take 3-4 cars for every one that's on the road off now, potentially would take it off the freeways. You can't build enough freeways to take care of the number of people that we have. So that's the concept that we're thinking right now.
I've heard in talking with the guys who are pitching this idea of personal rapid transit that they may actually be able to fund it out of their own pockets without having to go for city money. Is that your understanding as well?
Yeah, we're not looking to partner money-wise with anybody. What we're looking for, we provide the routing, and we own the roads. So it will be a private public partnership most likely. We can provide we don't want it to cross traffic or hold up any other traffic, so it would be something that would have its own dedicated lanes or above ground or below ground or whatever is decided to do. And we can provide the infrastructure since we own the roads. They would provide the equipment and the know-how and charge for it. It's not going to be free for whoever uses it. And according to the economic models that they have run, they believe they can build it and make money on it, which nowhere in the country does any transportation system pay for itself. They are all losing everywhere all over the country.
Okay.
And so that's unique about this particular model.
Now, how does this compare with, VTA has been pushing this idea of bus rapid transit down El Camino from San Jose up through Mountain View. And they're talking about narrowing El Camino down to 2 lanes to provide for a dedicated bus lane.
Right.
What do you think of that?
Well, the concept is excellent. The detail, the devil is in the detail. If you've ever driven El Camino from San Jose to, say, San Mateo or somewhere, it's not the same. It gets bigger and it gets narrower all the way through. When we looked at it for our particular area running through Mountain View, we're pretty narrow in Mountain View, and it has a significant impact to what goes on in Mountain View. The council actually voted against doing the bus rapid transit through Mountain View because of the impacts to it. That being said, unless some new concepts are developed to actually not lose the lanes, it was to essentially do away with the parking on El Camino all the way and to lose a lane. It was quite a significant thing, and we felt that it wasn't the right place for it in Mountain View.
Okay. Let's shift gears a little bit and go back. When we were talking about development, I alluded to the idea of new affordable housing complexes. And one of the things that as I've been following this issue, watching here on KMVT TV and also just reading in the newspapers, is what is our goal supposed to be with affordable housing? I know when I came to Mountain View, I was up against the idea that my apartment in Texas, where I had come from, was $400 a month, and immediately I came here and the same apartment was $900 a month, and it didn't seem like affordable housing to me. And so, I mean, for me, affordable housing meant, wow, things are expensive here. But lately I see this idea that it's like we're trying to provide a small amount of people, some kind of affordable housing. It's almost like an affordable housing lottery that we have here in the city. But what are we really trying to achieve, and what's the best way to achieve it? What do you think?
Well, let me first of all do the big subdivision. There's one called affordable housing, and the other is called below market rate housing.
Okay.
Affordable housing is where everybody can afford the housing they live in. In order to have truly affordable housing in Mountain View, you would have to build so much housing here, you wouldn't want to live here. So let's put that in a separate area.
Okay.
Now let's talk about below market rate housing, which is essentially subsidized housing. And the reason for the subsidized or below market rate housing, a number of reasons. It takes all kinds of people to live in a city. You need all kinds of people, from low income people to medium income to high income. And it's always been a goal of Mountain View to have all ranges of housing in Mountain View. As we become put it this way, richer city, more jobs, housing is going up and up and up. And has been continuing to go up. I know probably the house you're in is worth many more times than what you paid for it. And I know you've been here about 15
but
years.
No.
Yeah. Well, most people's housing has gone up quite a bit since they've lived here. And so what we're talking about is below market rate housing. And there is a housing impact fee that was charged on new development and still is if it's housing that's built for ownership, standard housing. And that's legal, and that continues to be. And that is approximately either 10% of the units are below market rate housing, or 3% of the project can be paid into a fund, and they use that money to pay for below market rate housing. Okay. What has been challenged in court now is anytime new apartments are built, called the Palmer case, and it came out of Southern California, where it was challenged and the court said it was illegal to make this charge. And so this is what has prompted this new issue here, or the reason for its coming to council.
I'll switch gears one more
Sure.
time, okay, and we'll talk about the idea of some people have, they characterize people on council as having, different tendencies and things. And one of the terms that's been used for you is neighborhood preservationist.
Right.
Okay. And I would like you to talk a little bit about how did you come to get that characterization, and how does that work into your philosophy of being on council?
Okay, sure. Well, I consider myself a neighborhood preservationist. One of the things that I learned when I was campaigning 5 or 6 years ago, people love their neighborhoods. Every neighborhood you go into, people really do love their neighborhoods. They know their neighbors, they feel comfortable there, they're passionate about it. That's a wonderful thing. They care. And as a result, they don't want to be they don't want it changed drastically. And so they don't want to look out their window the next day and see a 6-story building right next to them. They've lived there for a long time. And now, that being said, there's a general plan that shows where the zoning is. If you move into someplace knowing that the potential change is there, that's a different story. I don't have quite as much sympathy, even though I still have sympathy for you, knowing, but if it's a change in zoning now, that the council has the authority to do, I have difficulty with that. That's not fair to you to come in and change. You bought your house, you think it's going to be this way, you think the neighborhood's going to be this way, and you change it. I think that the people that live in Mountain View and have lived here and built this city have more rights, or certainly as much rights, as anybody that doesn't live here that's in concept coming here 10 years from now, or whatever the case is. We are the city. When we came to Mountain View, we knew what Mountain View is. We know what it is. We want to keep it Mountain View. Mountain View's got, I'm the mayor of Mountain View. I'm the biggest advocate of Mountain View. I can sit here and talk for an hour about all the great things we have, like the Stevens Creek Trail, the downtown area of Mountain View, the Performing Arts Center, the library. You know, it just goes, Shoreline Park. It goes on and on and on, all the wonderful things we have here. And we want to keep it that way. We love our city. So I am a neighborhood preservationist. I think I was elected to not only support where I live, but the whole city. So I go into all the neighborhoods of the city and I talk to people, and I want to support and understand what your issues are. Okay? And the reason that I need to continue to talk to you, because I'm elected on day one, but things change as time goes on. I need to understand what your issues are as time goes on. So, number one, I got involved being on the city council because I looked around the city, this was years ago, and I said, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? And I found out pretty soon that just to gripe about things doesn't do much good. So if you want to change it, and get involved, and I did. I got involved. And as a result of that, I got on the council. So one, you want to do it for the right reasons. You want to do it because you love your city, you care about people, and you're fair, and you're willing to listen to all sides and make decisions. You still need to make decisions for the most of Mountain View, but you want to do what's fair. So,
well, I want to thank you for working with the council to craft this new general plan. I think that, you know, most of the neighborhood people who've been involved, you know, are favorably disposed toward it. I've heard sometimes, though, the people in council say, like, oh, this is just a big waste of money and time. We should just make decisions on a piecemeal basis as they come along. I mean, you know, is the general plan something that we, as residents of Mountain View, can take seriously? And can we remind the council that we believe in this and they can take it seriously too?
I think that's a great question, and I think that one of the most important things that you do in your city is elect your council. Ask the right questions of council members before you elect them. Do you plan to stay to the general plan, or are you going to wholesale change it? We have a plan. The new plan's coming out. It was released this week, as I talked about. Please try to look at it. Any pieces that you're interested. I ask everyone to do that. It's so important. So ask your council members the right questions before you elect them. That's the most important thing you can do in this city.
Yeah, we have a big election coming up here in 2012.
That is correct.
And, you know, there are 2 incumbents running, but there's 2 also open seats. And
Correct.
what advice would you give a voter when he's looking to think about who should I vote for council? I mean, what qualities make a good council member?
Yeah. Well, by all means, make sure they're doing it for the right reason. Okay. And that they share your ideas, whatever they may be. Make sure you talk to this person. Call them up on the phone. They will talk to you. Whoever is running, set down a list of your own questions, 10 questions, 20 questions, whatever it may be. Talk to them about it. If that person doesn't give you the answers and the ideas and the thoughts that you need or want, don't elect them. Go to someone that does answer those.
That's well thought out advice for all of us who are looking forward to this very important election coming up.
Good.
Any final thoughts on what this year as being mayor of Mountain View has meant to you, Jack?
Yeah, it's been a great year. It's been just absolutely fantastic. Tell you a couple of short stories of some fun things that I've been able to do. I got a phone call here a few months ago from a group from China, Wuhan, China. I had never heard of Wuhan, China. They had wanted to come and talk to the mayor of Mountain View. Why did they want to talk to the mayor of Mountain View? And the reason is because we had so much good business here. And so how do we attract businesses? And we're innovators. How is it that we do that? So we entertained them. 23 people came with 4 interpreters, and we sat with them for about 5 hours talking to them. And it was so much fun. Where's Wuhan, China? You get on the internet and you look up Wuhan, China. Wuhan, China is a small city in China of only 9.8 million people, which is the size of the Bay Area, by the way. And they came, and it was, of course, they think I'm the mayor, I own the city. Well, unlike where they are, the mayor does own the province or city that they're in. And they came, and we had a really good time. We talked about a lot of things, and the crux of it, when I asked them where they were headed to next, and they said, well, they had been to Los Angeles, they were in Mountain View now, they were next going to Washington, D.C., and then finally to New York. So Mountain View is an internationally known city, and it's known for all of its great stuff. So it's really, really great. I've had a lot of fun meeting so many people and talking in groups and hopefully setting the agenda and the way the city has been moving.
That's really great. Wow. So I mean, as your year as mayor here winds down, but you'll still be on council for a few more years, right?
3 more years, correct.
What major priorities do you think you'll still be looking for?
Well, I'll be looking at a lot of issues, but one of the main priorities I'll be looking to is what you asked before. How can I continue to get people, the right people, help get the right people on the council that'll continue and follow on my ideas. One big issue that's been bothering me for a long time is the building more units without building more parks. As you well know, we have a 3 acre per 1,000 goal in the city. And what happens is that we get, in lieu of money, the developers put money into a fund, but we never go buy the parks because it's too hard to get the land. So I'm thinking in terms of possibly suggesting if it's units over 100, over 200 units, or wherever the number falls makes sense, you have to also supply the park. Examples of where we are supplying the park is Mayfield, the Mayfield project.
Okay.
There are 2 new actual parks going in with the project, but there are many more projects going on with no parkland.
I see.
Being put into it. And I love open space, I love parks, I love the outdoors, and I want to make sure that continues to help keep Mountain View, Mountain View.
Yep, well, that's what we want to do around here because as you mentioned to me once, when we were sitting at a meeting together, you know, people came here for a reason. Let's not lose sight of the idea that we want to keep this place to be the kind of place that makes people want to come here.
Correct.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Jack. Okay. I've appreciated having you here on the show here today and sharing your ideas and helping make this city the wonderful place that it is today and is always going to be.
Thank you very much, Robert.
Okay.